May 29th, 1453. 3 in the morning. A young emperor stands on walls that have protected his city for 1,000 years. Behind him, exhausted women and children huddle in the darkness of the greatest church in Christendom, praying for a miracle. In front of him, 80,000 Ottoman soldiers wait for the order to attack. Constantine XI knows he will not survive this day. He knows his empire, the last ember of Rome itself, will die with him. But he will not run. He removes his imperial regalia, draws his sword, and prepares to die as a Roman emperor. What happens next will reshape the world. To understand why this moment matters, you need to understand what Constantinople was. For over 1,000 years, this city had been the beating heart of the Eastern Roman Empire. We call it Byzantine today, but its people called themselves Romans until the very end. And their capital was the richest, most magnificent city in the medieval world. Imagine walking through its streets in its golden age, markets overflowing with silk from China, spices from India, gold from Africa, the Hagia Sophia rising against the sky, its dome seemingly floating on light itself, scholars preserving ancient Greek texts that the West had forgotten. This was the crossroads of civilization, the bridge between Europe and Asia. But what truly made Constantinople unconquerable was its walls. The Theodosian walls, built in the 5th century, stretched 4 miles across the peninsula. A triple line of fortifications, 20-foot thick outer walls, then a moat, then the great inner wall rising 60 feet high with 96 towers. For a millennium, every invader had broken against these stones. Arabs, Persians, Bulgars, Vikings, Crusaders, all had tried, all had failed. The walls had become legend. People believed they were protected by God and the Virgin Mary herself. No siege engine ever built could bring them down. But by 1453, the empire behind those walls had been dying for centuries. The Fourth Crusade in 1204 had been a wound that never healed. Christian crusaders, fellow Christians, had sacked the city, stolen its treasures, and shattered its power. Civil wars consumed what remained. The Black Death killed 1/3 of its people. Territory shrank until the once mighty empire was little more than Constantinople itself and a few scattered outposts. And now a young sultan was coming to finish what so many had failed to do. Mehmed II was only 21 years old. His own court thought he was reckless. His advisors warned him that Constantinople could not be taken, that greater men had tried and failed. Mehmed didn't listen. He was obsessed with the city. He had studied its walls, its history, its weaknesses. He dreamed of taking it since childhood, and he had something no previous invader possessed. A Hungarian engineer named Orban had come to Mehmed with plans for cannons larger than any the world had seen. One of them, the Great Bombard, was 27 feet long and required 60 oxen and 200 men just to move it. Its stone balls weighed half a ton. Mehmed commissioned it built. In April 1453, the Ottoman army arrived. 80,000 soldiers against fewer than 7,000 defenders. Mehmed's fleet sealed the harbor. His cannons began their bombardment. Inside the walls, Emperor Constantine XI knew the odds. He had begged Western Europe for help. The Pope promised soldiers who never came. Venice sent ships that arrived too late. The emperor could have fled. He could have saved himself. Instead, he told his people he would share their fate. The bombardment lasted 53 days. The great cannons fired day and night. Each explosion shook the earth. Each stone ball punched deeper into walls that had stood for 1,000 years. Defenders worked frantically through the night, filling breaches with rubble, timber, anything they could find. Women carried stones. Children ran water to the men on the walls. And every evening, as the sun set, people crowded into Hagia Sophia to pray. Greeks and Italians, Catholics and Orthodox, enemies who had feuded for centuries, now knelt together beneath that ancient dome. They prayed for relief ships, they prayed for miracles, they prayed for salvation. Food ran out, water grew scarce. Men who had fought for weeks without sleep collapsed at their posts, and still the cannons fired. Then on the night of May 28th, Mehmed offered Constantine one final chance: surrender, and the people would be spared. Constantine's reply has echoed through history. The city, he said, was not his to give. He would defend it to his last breath. At 1:30 in the morning on May 29th, Ottoman drums began to thunder. The final assault had begun. The first wave struck the weakest point in the walls, where the cannons had done their worst damage. Wave after wave of soldiers climbed ladders, pushed through breaches, and died on Christian swords. For 2 hours the defenders held, then 3. Against impossible odds they held. But Mehmed had fresh troops, the defenders had none. Shortly before dawn, elite Janissary soldiers found a small gate, the Kirkoporta, left open by accident or treachery. They poured through. At the same moment, a Genoese commander named Giovanni Giustiniani, who had been the backbone of the defense, was wounded and carried from the walls. His men, seeing him fall, broke and ran. Panic spread like fire. Constantine XI saw the Ottoman flags rising on his walls. He knew the end had come. According to witnesses, he threw off his purple cloak so he could die as a common soldier. He charged into the mass of Ottoman troops, sword swinging. He was never seen again. No one knows exactly how he died. His body was never positively identified. The last Roman emperor vanished into legend, fighting to the end. What followed was 3 days of pillage, as Mehmed had promised his soldiers. Thousands died. Tens of thousands were enslaved. Hagia Sophia was converted to a mosque. The Byzantine Empire, the continuation of Rome itself, was finished. But Mehmed did not destroy Constantinople. He rebuilt it. He repopulated it. He made it the capital of an empire that would last nearly 500 years. He called it his red apple, his prize. The city would become Istanbul, one of the great cities of the world. The fall sent shockwaves across Europe. Greek scholars fled westward, carrying manuscripts and knowledge that helped ignite the Renaissance. Trade routes shifted. European powers suddenly had new motivation to find sea routes to Asia, eventually leading to Columbus crossing the Atlantic. The balance of power between Christianity and Islam, between East and West, had fundamentally changed in a single day. Constantinople's fall teaches us that nothing lasts forever. Not walls, not empires, not certainties we build our lives around. The Theodosian walls had stood for 1,000 years, and everyone knew they could not fall, until they did. But it also teaches us something about courage. Constantine XI could have saved himself. He chose to die with his people, his city, his idea of what he was supposed to be. Whether that was wisdom or folly, it was a choice. And sometimes the choice to stand, even when you cannot win, is the most human thing there is. The city still stands today. Different flags, different names, different empires, but the walls remain. And somewhere beneath modern Istanbul, the last Roman emperor lies in an unmarked grave, still keeping his promise.